Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Lighthouse Sessions. Today we have a repeat. My dear friend Daniel, he and I were clearly separated at birth. Now, Daniel, we're going to talk about cybersecurity today. So why don't you just quickly introduce yourself, and then we're going to get into the whole nerdy thing.
Can we escape it? I don't think we can. If you watched any of my previous stuff, you may have known I was in military intelligence. So I started off in signals intelligence, which is kind of listening to what the enemy's talking about on radios. And of course, it's evolved since then. I'm old school. Yeah, you can stress whichever one of those. Probably you're gonna definitely stress the old more than the school when it comes to me. But I went on to learn interrogation, so that's human intelligence. And then having those backgrounds, I came to a point in my career where I had taught interrogation. I had helped design an advanced interrogation and analysis course, and I was looking for a job again. I'd been living in Honduras for 5.5 years, and that's a separate story. But when I started looking for a job, I was like, oh, I'll go back and teach at the course I created. Right, I helped create this course, and so literally handed in my resume. And they're like, oh, we've got 3 positions open. There's literally no one more qualified to step into this than you. And so there was a hiring freeze at the government. And so,
of course,
literally the day I handed in my resume. And so, I was waiting. And then eventually I got to a place where I started feeling the pressure. And I'm like, I went out on LinkedIn and I said, hey, does anybody else know where I might be employable? And a friend of mine who was part of this design group that helped me build this course said, I'm doing cybersecurity at a major bank, and I think you'd be a really good asset for my intelligence team. I didn't know anything about, I studied computer science in college, didn't finish degree, quit before I got anything too deep. I'd done tech support at Best Buy, before I was part of, I was basically a tech guy. And then I came back and I was a Geek Squad member because they'd rebranded. So after my deployment, when I went to Iraq, I came back and I was a Geek Squad member.
I'm jealous right there. I've always wanted to be worthy of the shirt.
I may have a shirt somewhere in my closet still. I will not fit me for sure, but it's there. And so, to go work for a bank, especially if you've been living abroad, takes a while to go through the background checks and stuff, even though I had held security clearances and such. So in the month that it took me to get everything lined up and me to come on full time, I started reading about hackers and how they hack and what they do and learning, I already understood like geopolitical threats and like how Russia, I kind of look at the geopolitical threat actors as personalities, right? So you've got, Russia is sort of they have like an alliance with crime. So it's like, hey, I don't want to do this, but we just nudge these guys over here and give them some shelter. They'll go out and do some nefarious things for us. And oh, hey, it wasn't us. We didn't do that.
Plausible deniability, right?
Yeah, I learned interesting things like the Russian criminal groups create viruses that check to see if you use a Cyrillic keyboard, and if you do, they don't infect your system.
I haven't worked with that. I'm going to not use it because this is PG-13.
Yeah, so there's interesting things. So I basically had basic competency coming in, right? I understood intelligence. I had a couple of disciplines. I would also say, my open source intelligence, my ability to find things on the internet was strong. And at the time that was needed because, there's a lot of companies that provide really good threat intelligence feeds now for major corporations. Yep. That didn't exist when I started in the job. So I was doing, half of my day would be reading articles, internet articles from, I had a focus on the Americas. So I was literally reading articles in English, Spanish, and Portuguese to see what was going on in our hemisphere. And then kind of just evolved. I ended up taking over the rest of the world, so to speak. I was the lead strategic analyst for the bank that I worked at, and did a lot of interesting things in that space. So what that really led me to do was I knew how the bad guys hack. I know what they go after. I know why they target you. I know who they target. And so I really had the kind of outside in. I've always had that ability to think like a bad guy. What would I do if I were going to be a jerk and ruin your business? I mean, I know the linchpin to pull that causes the whole system to collapse, right? It might be hiring away your tech genius, right?
Yeah.
Because without your tech genius, you're not creating anything new. I've instantly stagnated your business, right?
Yeah.
And so,
and most tech geniuses don't leave good notes. So, good luck to the next one.
That's right. You want to walk into a place where you've gotten some insane genius with doodles on the wall, and that's like how do I decode this? I need a Rosetta Stone, please.
Yep.
And so then I get to the place in my life. I think we talked about this. I learn fast. I mean, I learn really, really fast. And so, I got to a place where I was even influencing outside the organization on some pretty significant stuff. So I was looking for something new, and I'd done scenario work in interrogation, and so I started helping on the cyber exercise team, and I helped them design the scenarios. And then I liked it so much, I joined the team. And so the cool thing about that was, since it was a major bank, a lot of people, they're like, oh, you do cybersecurity. And it's like, oh, you live in Nebraska. Do you know Bob? It's like, I mean, there's over 200 jobs in cybersecurity, and they don't know what each other does.
Yeah.
But the cool thing about being an exercise guy is I touched all those roles. So I know what all those people do. Now, I can't do their jobs, but I know at least an inch deep on what the defensive side of the thing looks like.
I love it. And, for me, I was learning about blue team and red team, and then I heard about purple team, and I went, that's me.
I've done some purple team exercises. It's a game changer, because here's what, when you get pen testing, right, which is basically hiring hackers to probe your network and see what kind of gaps exist. Companies do defense in depth, right? So, you don't just put up you don't just put antivirus and then your business is protected, right? It doesn't work that way.
In Norton we trust, right?
Right. Yeah. So what you do is you have layered defense, right? And so the problem with a pen test team is if they can thwart layer 1 and they can thwart layer 2, and then layer 3 stops them, but you have layer 4 and layer 5. Layer 4 and 5 never get tested. They never get probed. So you think, well, I still had 3 more layers of defense, but it could be that 4 and 5 were easily thwarted too. So when you're purple teaming, you're working with the blue team and the red team. So if the red team gets stuck, they can say, hey, let me through layer 3, give me a hall pass to cross the moat, so that I can start whacking on the door and see if I can get through the door.
Let's agree I failed at 3, and now let's move on, right?
Correct. Yeah, because really the defenders want to know, what's actually working to stop these bad guys from getting in. And, it's not that layer 1 was worthless. Yeah. It could have stopped 90% of the people, but you're hiring some of the best, and they've got tricks and tools to get around things. So again, you don't want them in at all. So if your layer 1 stops 90%, that's great. One of the concepts we talk about is don't be the low-hanging fruit, right? Mm-hmm. So if there's 100 banks that they could hack and you have the worst security, they're gonna know that, because they're gonna run I mean, I can sit there and just go, hey, run this script against 100 banks. And
Yeah.
if yours is the one that came back with, oh, they've got the vulnerability that lets me walk through the door with my army,
Yep.
you're going to be the one that gets taken down.
Well, and worse, you're going to be on a list that
Oh, yeah.
others will want to come after because.
Well, you're going to have to correct the problem, or you're going to not be a bank anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah. The dark web is an interesting place when you know where to look, but it's
you can recruit a lot of dark knights for sure.
And it's fascinating. And let's talk about the people aspect, because I think a lot of my listeners are not banks and they're not worried about the hardware and software, but what I'm fascinated by, and again, I think low-hanging fruit is the word. I don't want to be the most impenetrable fortress possible. I just don't want to be the easy one they keep coming back to. So what do you do in terms of training, or how do you deal with the flaw that is humanity in a secure network? I mean, we're always the weakest link, right?
Yes. Whatever security you have can typically be bypassed by the people who are there, right? So, and it's even in the physical, because a lot of hackers, they will actually go into your facility pretending to be a repair person or something. That's social engineer. Social engineering is what they call it. And they can follow somebody through a security gate. That's called tailgating. Yeah. They can convince somebody. They go to your directory and see, oh, so and so is the security person. I'll just say, hey, I have a meeting with so and so. He wanted me to leave this folder. You can coordinate. They can watch your social media and see when you're not in town. So now they know, oh, Bob knows that I'm coming, knowing that Bob's on vacation and unreachable, right? Mm-hmm. I don't know what to do. I guess you guys are going to fail your audit, and but I can't come back next week when Bob's here. So well, you know what? Let me just take that thumb drive, and I'll
I really want to help you guys. I don't want you to get in trouble. I'm going to tell you, years ago, I worked at a top international accounting firm, and we had security everywhere, swipes in the stairwells, and some guy with a homemade badge and one of those little utility carts, he convinced the receptionist that he was there to see the IT guy who was on vacation, and he was supposed to pick up 6 laptops or something for repair. And she's like, oh, let him in. And he walked around the office, and every laptop that wasn't secured, which we were supposed to, he walked out with about a dozen laptops that day. And back then they were expensive, but worse, it was the data on the laptops, because we were an accounting firm, and I'm sorry to say to the bad guys, but accounting firms have enough data that you could steal the identities of every single client.
Yeah. Oh, that's a great, I don't know how much you want to go on like the personal side, or if you want kind of just tactics and strategy, but like, if you can't hack a big company, go after their law firms, for example, right? Because the law firms, I mean, obviously the top tier law firms, they're going to have top tier security, but is that who's managing some pretty important stuff for your organization, right? So.
Well, it's funny. I have no official confirmation, and I don't expect I'll ever get one. But I discovered a rumor that there's an AI that basically farms data from online dating sites and processes it and sends it off to the CIA for intelligence. Now, technically, I'm pretty sure that's illegal, but where there's smoke, there's fire, and I don't want to be on anybody's blacklist. But the reality is, and I think that let's start with social media, because I feel like everybody walks around in public with their pants down. It's like there's no attempt to hide anything.
Yeah. I know your birthday. I know the name of your dog. I know what city you're born in. There's so many. basic security questions that I can get. Can I pull your email off of LinkedIn?
Yeah.
Do I know who your favorite sports team is? And do you use a password that goes back to something that's important to you that I can find? Those are the types of things that I would say for one of the worst things you can do is use your email and the same password for multiple accounts, because you're basically, you have a skeleton key for everything that's important to you, and I only have to steal that one key.
Yeah.
That will completely destroy really any chance of you. If you get something serious compromised and it's the same as your email password, they have everything.
You're exposed.
Yeah, and they can start changing your passwords, because guess what gets prompt when you change a password? It's your email, and they have access to it. So you'll especially if you have a business account or something like that, have multi-factor authentication, and also have some other person that you really, really, really trust with admin access that can't be cut. That would just be some.
And I find it fascinating. I've done some weird research, and the percentage of people who use the word password as a password, it's like, seriously? I feel like just not using that, you're better off. It's
so there's different strategies. Like you could use a service that manages your passwords, but even those, they're all, again, you've got one key to your password vault, and all your keys are in the vault. But if I have that key, I have access to all the other stuff. So
and if that password is password, God help you.
Yeah, don't do that. Don't do that. Yeah. And really, I think there's either an app out there, or probably AI will tell you now, like, you can type in a password and it'll tell you how long it will take the bad guys to brute force that password.
Yeah.
And brute forcing means trying every single combination of passwords. So, I'll tell you a story of, even the security focused people don't always get it right. One of my pet peeves is, you tell me I need to have a password for your site, but you don't tell me the rules of the password.
Right.
Okay. It's super annoying, because I'm going to think of a password. It's going to be in my head. I'm going to type it out, and then I hit return, and it'll go, oh, you're not following this rule. Right.
Yeah.
And it tells me after I do it.
Yeah.
So super annoying. We'll fix that next week, maybe, Jeff.
Yeah.
But so for this company, sometimes I intentionally put in a bad password so that it will give me the rules, so that I can create a good password. So I was logging into a security company, a cybersecurity company, and I sent my password as lowercase a, and it accepted it.
Oh my God.
Can you imagine how long it would take to brute force?
Wow.
As a password. Now, maybe they're going to be looking at passwords 8 characters and longer, and they'll never hack my account. But you could probably run through characters 1 through 7 in the first 5 seconds.
Yeah.
And brute forcing just means trying every single combo at computer speed.
Yeah.
Until you find what the password is. So literally lowercase a is like, the first 0.00001 seconds, So.
Yeah. And it's funny, because I found a couple of those sites, and I've put in what I thought were pretty secure. And, I think I got one, it was a year, and I was like, yay, me. But still, I was like, oh, wait, that's only a year.
Yeah. No, but the good thing about that is, again, you've ceased to be low-hanging fruit.
Yeah.
Who wants to hack Jeff enough to let a script work on you? They're basically consuming resources.
Yeah. For an entire year.
For a whole year. Yeah. That's good. Quantum computing is going to drop it down to 2 days.
Yeah.
But, that's how the world works.
Well, it's funny. I have a friend who he is high up in his organization, and he doesn't want to bother with extra passwords and mins. So he just gets his assistant to send people an email and they can log in as him. And he sent me one and I looked and it was like, it's been over, I can't remember, 720 some days since you last changed your password. That pretty much gives if somebody was devoted to bringing him down, they could. But a lot of people complain about having to change passwords regularly, and it's like, this is something we do for you, not to you.
Yes. And again, it only helps if your credentials are getting compromised somewhere else, right? So, if you're making, if you have a different password on every website, which I do, great. They've hacked one of my accounts. They're not going to get any of the others, right? Because it's too far of a bridge to jump. But again, the longer it goes, what's the chance that, somebody's seen the piece of paper that I have under my keyboard, or,
that was the other one that used to bother me, when you flip up the keyboard and you're like, really?
Thanks for making it easy.
It's like, do you leave the car keys in the visor? And I'm like, oh, you probably do.
Probably so. Yeah. And again, part of making the human factor smarter is doing the training. I know you want it to be interesting enough and interactive enough. I'm a big fan of gamifying things, and so if you make somebody read the presentation on phishing emails, that's less helpful. If you just hit them with phishing simulations, good. You're at least getting some metrics about what's tricking them. But if you go to the point where you really get something that lets them understand, oh, this is why this part is important, right? Almost always phishing emails have that urgency thing. Because if you think about it, you're going to go, wait a minute. And I'll give you a perfect example of that, Jeff. I called my parents one day and they said, hey, can't talk to you. Something really important's going on, right? And so I said, okay, call me back. Right? Because I don't know what's going on with my parents. They didn't tell me. They were at the grocery store getting a gift card or like a Visa card to pay a warrant. That is what I do for a living. And they didn't think to call me and go, hey, we got this thing where they're going to arrest us if we don't go get this thing. And I'm like,
I apparently have a lot of unpaid parking tickets, according to the texts I get.
The new scam now is the texts are for in Texas we have the toll roads, and it's like, oh yeah, you know, and of course they know you've got a Texas area code, and they're just spamming it out. And I love when they're lazy and they spam it to like 10 numbers at once, because like all of us owe $6.32, right?
It's like, oh, what a bunch of deadbeats.
Work. We just mass text out our invoices.
I'm just going to share. I'm offended by whoever these people are that are doing these things. I'm offended by how little respect they have for us. And I'm more offended by how often they're apparently right. It's like, but it is that urgency. And I assume you've read Dr. Robert Cialdini's works on influence. Most of these phishing things have the levers in his book that he talks about, and they're so clumsily applied. It's like, again, they want the low-hanging fruit. They don't want somebody who goes, oh, nice try, I see you used influence lever number 3.
You know what's even worse, Jeff, and this is a true story, right? So that one of the early email scams was the Nigerian prince scam, right? And so a UK group decided, oh, well, we have princes, we should have this scam, right? Well, the thing is, it was more plausible that a UK person was reaching out and promising them a bunch of money than a Nigerian.
Yeah.
And so what would happen is, I'm like more curious. I'm like, oh, tell me more about this. And so what it was doing was causing people to go down the pathway to paying further, and then they would go, no, this is a scam, and they'd walk away.
Yeah.
So the UK group pretended to be Nigerians because that's going to scare off anybody who's got a filter for, oh, this is a scam.
Yeah.
But I mean, the worst thing for them isn't the person that sees it's a scam right away. The worst thing for them is, I eat up a lot of your time and I don't send you the money.
Yeah. Because I like to do that, by the way.
Man. And do you have like an affiliate program, or?
I feel like I should.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll share this with you because we're nerds being nerds here. There's a series of YouTube channels, and one of them, his handle is Pierogi. I don't know why, but he cracks me up. And my boys and I, we will sit and watch him for hours. And he's gone so far, he's learned curse words in every language possible because he wants to call them whatever they are in their own language. But he hosts an annual hackathon with a help desk company as a sponsor. I can't remember the name of the company. I feel bad, I should know, but they're one of the leading conduits of scams because all the hackers like to use their tool because it's easy and free. So reputationally, they're like, oh crap, we're kind of culpable in this. So they host an annual hackathon, and the goal is how many minutes they can keep these people on. And Pierogi's a bit of a jerk, and I love him for it because he deletes their hard drives, like he reverse hacks them. And he did a project with Mark Rober where they sent, Mark does glitter bombs. I don't know if you've seen his stuff. Glitter bombs with fart spray. It's like he's a child and I love him for it. But they sent packages to known call centers in India at the time, and they released, I think it was cockroaches, mice, glitter, and fart spray. And then at the end, they sent all of the logs and stuff because, again, these are businesses.
Yeah.
They keep really good records of their sales, as they call it. Send it to the police, and you always get to watch. At some point, there's a video with 50 scammers, lined up on their knees with their hands behind their head. It's like, yeah, but you didn't get the head of the snake.
Right, of course.
You caught the useless limbs that'll be replaced tomorrow.
Right.
But the thing, and I think this is me looking at it as a global issue, if you don't address the poverty that makes it essential for these people, and, let's not even talk about organized crime. They're not there willingly going, no, I got nothing else to do. I couldn't get a job at Best Buy as in the Geek Squad, so I'm going to go become a hacker. It's usually something a little more desperate, like, family illness or something. But I do like watching those. And apparently there's a whole collective that someday I want to be nerdy enough to be invited to. So.
Yeah. And I think, part of it is, hackers go from white to black, and there's plenty of gray in there as well. I think that those tentacles often are, I wouldn't even call them hackers, right? They know how to get you to talk you into giving them access to your computer, and they know what script to run, and then it does what it does. And I mean, they're not the master hackers that are draining your bank accounts necessarily, right? So, they have a job to do. And again, it's the job that feeds their family. So, like you said, would you steal bread to feed your starving child? Yeah. I mean, if it's my child suffers, or the best I can do is steal some bread. Maybe I'll leave a note and an IOU because that's who I am. But
sorry.
I mean, and that's those influence levers that get pushed, right? That's the stuff that, and the work of an interrogator, right? That's what I did as an interrogator, is see what's important to you so I can put it in scope for the conversation that we need to have that moves you toward being helpful.
And honestly, the sad part is a lot of the manipulation can be trained at a low level, so that low level people, they don't know why they're doing it, but they know they're doing it. And if it works enough that it makes money for the guys at the top, well, rinse, repeat.
Crumbs will fall.
Yeah. Now, I just have to share with you that I find my favorite movie, my wife thinks I'm weird. I absolutely love The Beekeeper with Jason Statham.
It was already in my head, brother. I was like, I don't know if I should bring this up or not, but
I cannot watch that show without laughing my butt off. And my wife's like, you are seriously twisted. I'm like, it's, again, I get it's not nice. We don't want to go after the little guys at the bottom. I have deep empathy for them. But the fact that he just followed the money to the top, I'm like, there's one scene where he's using a stapler on the guy's face, and I'm like, I wonder how Daniel would treat that scene.
I'd never do that, brother. No.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like the best
compliant. And really, you know, you don't need to do that, right? I mean, it is almost never going to be effective. It depends on what you need and what you're willing to do to get it. I'm a highly moral person, so you know. But I mean, again, tell me there's 10 nukes going off in the United States, and this is the only person that can help tell me to get it, and I've got an hour. You know what?
Exchange.
Yeah, I mean, you know, that's what. But again, you've got to predefine what those trigger levels are for you. You know, in a normal interrogation, I'd never break the. And if I did do what I had to do to get the information, no matter what, I would turn myself in. I'd just like that, put me in jail for the rest of my life. I did what I thought I had to do to save 10 cities in America.
Yeah,
I'm willing to pay the price for that. The rest of my life in jail, every day of the week.
Well, and I think that's what makes, I'm going to say, the white hat side different, is that guidance. Like, I know up front what I'm willing to do, and you know, it's for me, I'm kind of the online neighborhood watch. I observe and report. I see something weird, I report it. I don't want to be the guy kicking in a door. I don't want to have any accountability for, you know, if something goes wrong and a life is lost, I don't know how I would deal with that, and I don't want to. So I leave it to the people who are trained to do these things. And so I'm just an observe and report kind of guy. Yeah.
And again, you know, I like how you, in fact, I was doing some mentoring today, and I was like, you know, trying to encourage a younger person, you know, much younger than us, 20 something, right? You know, go out there and explore the world, but know where, you know, pre-think, what are my boundaries, right? Because if you know that you'll go to a party, but you're not drinking under any circumstance, no matter what, except for, you know, some drink that you've sourced yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, that's going to eliminate a ton of risk for you, right? Yeah. And I think that's the case as well. You know, be careful what websites you're going on, right? If you're looking for shady stuff, the odds you're going to run into shady people. I mean, I lived in Honduras for 5 years. There's places I know I wouldn't be at midnight in Honduras, right? I would be the wrong, you know,
you meet the wrong people.
Yeah. It's like, and you can't make assumptions either, because, you know, I met somebody who was sort of a champion for DEI. And one of the things, you know, looked at me like, well, you're a white person. What do you know about discrimination? And I'm like, I lived in a country where I was a extreme minority for 5 years, you know, where prices of things go up when I walk in the room, when they look at me and my family as targets to kidnap. I mean, believe me, there's plenty of things that, you know, but you just look and you're like, oh, you're the average, you look average for what's around me here. Yeah. And so you make some assumptions, but it's like, I've been home invaded. I know what it's like to have guns at my kids' heads.
Wow. And I think a lot of people, like, we are in North America, I'm going to just say it, it is what it is, but we're fat and lazy when it comes to security because, I have a colleague in Israel, and if I don't respond to his messages within a couple of hours, he's like, "Are you okay? What happened?" I'm like, "I live in Canada. It's pretty calm. My bad day, I got a paper cut or stubbed a toe, maybe a car accident. There's no real threats right now."
Not even governmental.
Well, they got other things to do. They're after other things, but
I'm in Texas, baby. Yeah.
I love it. Now, we could talk all day, but I do want to let you get back to your day. So what final parting thoughts would you have for anybody who is thinking about, do I need cybersecurity?
Great question. Yeah. So I would say do a thought experiment where you're like, if I were to get hacked and lose every file I have, what would that cost me?
Yeah.
Right. If you have a small business and your client data gets taken by somebody, how bad would that be for your business? Would you be done? If so, start at least sticking your toe in the water. I found a company that I really like. Not Israeli owned, but most of them are. Tons of ex-Mossad and ex-Army officials in Israel start some really amazing cybersecurity companies.
Yeah.
But it's all about what do I have to lose, right? Yeah. I found a company called White Cloud Security, who it's basically application whitelisting. It's more complicated than probably the average user could self-manage, but right. It's priced reasonably. And effectively what it does is if I click a link and it doesn't know that it's a good program, it blocks it.
Yeah.
So literally I can click infected links all day long without getting infected. Mm-hmm. And when I want to run something, I know how to go in there and validate that it's not a virus so that, I can safely run software.
I love it. Now, I want to thank you for being on the show. We'll have you back another time, but as always, a real pleasure to hang out with you, my friend.
Same here, Jeff. Thanks so much.